In this video, we're going to talk all things Service Autopilot, specifically when it comes to how EveryChat integrates and listens for events inside of Service Autopilot to save custom data and to perform custom actions. So let's dig into EveryChat. I would recommend, if you're following along, have EveryChat open in one window or have EveryChat open in one tab and then Service Autopilot open in a separate tab so we can work between these two systems. Because I'm going to show you three things: how to sync contacts with Service Autopilot, how to save form submissions whenever somebody saves or submits a Service Autopilot form, and then in addition to that, we're going to talk about how to trigger automated texts in EveryChat when things happen in Service Autopilot automations. And all three of these will require Service Autopilot automations. Without SA automations, they have no way to send data out of their system and tell us when things like a service is happening tomorrow, or a service just completed, or a payment has gone past due. There's no way for us to receive that information as of the date of recording this video. So you must have Service Autopilot automations in order to automate things with EveryChat. So here's how this is going to work. Inside of EveryChat, let's go to this page here. And in order to do this, you'll just go to the top, go to Profile Settings, and then from there, you're going to go to the left side where it says Third-Party APIs. From that point, you're going to click on Configure, and then you're going to click on Automations and Forms here just below that Configure button. So this is where we are going to spend almost the entirety of this video, excluding the time that we're going to spend on Service Autopilot. There's really nowhere else you need to go inside of EveryChat system to set up this API integration. So from this point forward, let's just go from, we're going to start with syncing contacts, then we're going to do send text, and then we'll talk about syncing form submissions. So syncing contacts is going to be pretty simple. Now, there are some preliminary items that we need to do inside of Service Autopilot to get any of these three set up. And that is adding EveryChat's email as a team member within Service Autopilot. Because Service Autopilot doesn't have an API, we have to add EveryChat's email because we're going to use their email feature to send data out of their system and into our system. And then we're going to read that data and then we're going to perform an action based on that information. So from this point, I'm going to move my camera out of the way. Let's go to Teams, or better said, we're going to go to Employees, and we're going to add a new employee. Now, what you're going to do is you just need to put in three basic information at the very least. Some accounts require maybe one or two other items, but in this case, the only information that EveryChat needs is going to be, or the only information that both EveryChat and Service Autopilot need for the most part, is just going to be the first name, last name, and the email address. So what most people do is they just do EveryChat as the first name, API as the last name, and then the email is going to be EveryChat or API@everychat.net. That is the only information that we need to put into this employee. So you will click Save, and then once that employee is saved, we can jump back to automations here. So once you have created that employee, let's create our first automation. Now, in the case of most of these automations, or most of these integrations that we're going to do, integrations I say in quotations, is that you will need to create a new automation. However, there is one exception. When it comes to setting up texting, you do not need to create a separate automation for this. We can weave EveryChat's texting snippet into any of your existing automations like Service or better said, estimate follow-ups, invoice follow-ups, next day service reminders, past due payment collections, things like that. Even if you're using like Simple Growth's 20 days to close, we can integrate with that too. Those are not things where you have to go rebuild it entirely. We would just put in EveryChat's texting snippet, which I'll show you here in a few minutes. So let's talk about syncing the contact. So in order to sync contacts, I would recommend creating a new automation, and we can call this EveryChat or sync contacts with EveryChat. So we're going to click Save, and then we're going to click Add a sequence, and we can just call it send leads to EveryChat. Just call it the same thing. Re-entry we usually leave to off because there's no need to send a lead twice to EveryChat. And then we are going to click Start Sequence Trigger, and then we're going to say lead was created. So once you have that set and ready, we're going to click Save, And then this is where we're going to actually send the data to EveryChat. So we're going to drag in an email. We're going to click on that email, and we're just going to say send lead. Then from there, we're going to go to the from and set this to company email. You can ignore user first and last. Then we're going to go to to, and then the to is going to be that EveryChat email that we created. Subject is not required by EveryChat, but it is required by ServiceAutopilot. So we'll just call this send lead. And then email category will be general. Then between time, we can set this to run 24/7 since we are not texting anybody. If you are texting somebody, we'll talk more about this in just a second. But if you are texting people, only send it during daylight hours. Don't have this automation running 24/7 because somebody might get a text at 3 in the morning when this automation potentially runs. So just keep that in mind. So from that point, we have it running we have this contact sync automation running 24/7. We're going to turn approve email to off. And then the last thing that we need to do is just create an email body. And the email body is going to be generated by EveryChat. So that's what this feature is right here. This is going to generate the code. So all you have to do is copy and paste it into ServiceAutopilot, and then you are good to go. So there are some additional features here, like defining what type of person this is. We're creating a contact or we're creating a lead. But then you do have the ability to automatically assign tags to people as they get created with this automation, or even remove tags. This is going to be important. Like if you ever set up an automation that says when somebody signs up for a service, add that service as a tag to their account. Or there's also the inverse of that. If they cancel a service, remove that tag from their account. You can do both. But we're going to keep it simple for right now. We're just going to click copy code because this is the contact sync code that's going to come through as an email. There's nothing you need to do to edit it. From there, we will just click into this box here. We will click save. You'll activate everything. Click save again, and you are good to go. That automation is done, and now ServiceAutopilot will send us new contacts or new leads every time they are creating ServiceAutopilot, so you aren't having to do frequent imports to keep your list up to date. So let's now talk about texting. And I think what I'm going to do is just in this case, I'm going to build out the texting piece in this automation here. But just note, you can replicate exactly what we're doing in this automation and put it into other automations too. So if you have an automation already set up for sending a text to somebody when you send them an estimate, you can just replace the normal ServiceAutopilot texting feature and drag in an email below that, and then that's where we will have the EveryChat text go out. So let's kind of replicate that process here. So let's just imagine we're in a separate automation that's designed to just text somebody when an estimate is sent by email in ServiceAutopilot. So what we're going to do here is we are going to say, we'll just call this send estimate, and then we will set restrict entry to, we'll leave that alone, but we will allow reentry. We are going to turn that on here. Just for the sake of testing in this video, we're just going to do every 1 minute. Although for the most part, what I would recommend is maybe every 12 hours, every day, something like that, unless you're sending estimates frequently. And then what this is going to say is it's not going to text somebody more than the frequency that you set here. So if you have it set to 1 text per day here, but you send 2 estimates, they will only get 1 text. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes people just set it to every minute or the frequency to every minute so that if they do send multiple estimates in a day, they get the text multiple times. So from here, we are going to set this to estimate. And this isn't really the part that you necessarily need to be following along with. We're just creating a test example here. We're going to set this to estimate was sent, and we are going to click save. And then this is the part that I wanted to get to. So if you are going to send EveryChat texts throughout different automations, in this case, the example is when an estimate is sent to a lead. All you need to do is just like saving a contact, you'll just drag in an email. We're going to open up that email, and we're going to call this send text because that's what this is doing. We're going to set the from to company email. We're going to disregard first and last, again, not worthwhile, or it's not necessary. Then we're going to set this to EveryChat again, that email that we created. And just as a reminder, the customer is not getting an email in this case. The email that Service Autopilot is sending goes to EveryChat to tell us when to send a text. EveryChat will read the data in that email and then text your lead with the Service Autopilot estimate link. Because if you have the merge field, which Service Autopilot does have a merge field for estimates or like the property address or just different data around that customer and the things that you're creating for that customer, you can reference that information and so that EveryChat can send that stuff too. So you can have the estimate link in an EveryChat text. So all they have to do is click on that link and approve the estimate directly from their phone. So that's what we're effectively setting up here. So from this point forward, the last remaining things that we need are the subject, which we'll just say send text. The email category is going to be general. Because we're sending a text, we're just going to send these during daylight hours. So it's in some ways up to your preference here. But I might say 8 a.m. to say 6 p.m. or something like that, where I'm comfortable with sending a text to somebody. We're going to turn approve email to off because we want these to run automatically. And then we're going to go over to email body and we're going to do something very similar to the contact situation. So we're going to jump back over to EveryChat. We are going to turn off the sync contacts part and we're going to activate the send texts. So from this point, all you need to do is pick the phone number that's in your account. In this case, I don't have any, so we're just doing an example here. So you would pick the phone number. Then you're going to write your message. So you might write it here, or what some people do is they write the message here in Service Autopilot so that they can reference all of the merge fields over here on the right. So because you might want the estimate link, let's see if I can find that. Yeah, estimate link URL is the one that you want to use. What some people will do is they will write the message in Service Autopilot so that they can reference the merge fields over here on the right side. And then once they're happy with it, they will copy it and they will go paste that into the message body so that EveryChat can turn that message body into the code that you need to put into the email. So once you're happy with that message, you'll just click copy code and you will come back and replace this all. And now that text message is set up. So all you would do is click save event, send or activate these, and then you would click save. And now anytime an estimate is sent, we will also text the lead and say, hey, we just sent you your estimate by email. If this is easier, I've texted it to you as well. You can click the link below to approve the estimate, or please let me know if you have questions. So you can use this exact same process in any kind of automation to send text, EveryChat text anywhere. Now, one thing that I've actually discovered doing onboarding calls with customers is that not many people know that you can save these as templates, so you don't have to redo the process each and every time. So in here, just as a point of reference, because we don't need to redo all of this information every time, you can just click Save as Template down here, and then that information will be accessible under Event Templates over here on the left side, where you can just use the Send Text event that we already have saved in this account, so that you can just drag and drop it and reuse it as you need. Just remember that the template will need to be updated each time. So you don't have to update this information, but the message body you will need to update if it's going to be a different message for a different automation. So what I might do is I might cut that out. I might go back over to EveryChat, write my new message, and then I will just copy code, paste it in there, save it, and now that automation is done. So it's easier, it's faster, but you do need to make sure that the message is accurate for each email automation that's going to go trigger a text in EveryChat. All right, so let's do the final thing, and we're going to do it in this automation again. Let's talk about syncing form submissions. So what I mean when I say syncing form submissions, this is basically whenever a form is submitted in Service Autopilot, we're going to detect that event and we're going to create a form submission inside of EveryChat so you can manage all of your form submissions, all of your emails, all of your texts, Facebook reviews, everything in one inbox. That's what we're doing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create sync form submissions, or check that box. We're going to create, or we're going to reference one of the forms that you already have created, and that is a required step. Because the reason why we do this is any form submissions created in EveryChat are required to be associated with a form. So in the scenario where you just have Service Autopilot forms, but you don't have any EveryChat forms, you won't be able to sync them up. But what you can do is you can just create a dummy EveryChat form and then map the fields to that form. And you don't ever have to embed your EveryChat form. You don't ever have to make it publicly available. It just needs to exist so we know how to display that information on the screen within the inbox. So what you might do as a dummy EveryChat form is you might come over here to our forms screen up here, which there's a different video talking about how to set up forms. But on a very basic level, if you want to integrate these forms, you will need to create a custom form here. So you can click create form. And then if it's a quote form that we're listening for, you could click get a quote. Otherwise, you might click contact or hiring application, depending on the form that we're integrating with in Service Autopilot. And then from that point, you don't have to mess with any of this information here on the screen. All you would do is just rename that form SA in a quote form. You'll just click save and publish. And then we can just jump right back over to the Service Autopilot integration page. So we can go back to sync form submissions. And then all you'll do is you'll just say, I want to map all of this data to my SA quote form. That's all you have to do in this scenario. So once you've done that, we don't have to modify anything else about this code. We're just going to click copy code and take that over to that Service Autopilot automation. So SA form sync. So there are going to be a few additional pieces that we need to talk about here, because you'll need to create some custom fields inside of Service Autopilot to map that data to the forms. So if we're going to do select a trigger, form was submitted, and then you'll pick the form that you want to integrate with. In this case, let's see if we already have an EveryChat test form. Yes, we do. So we're going to click on that checkbox there. So now all this is saying is that when the EveryChat test form is submitted, we're going to map that data to the form that you have created in EveryChat. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be a custom form that you've created just for EveryChat inside of Service Autopilot. We can map that. We can connect any forms that you already have in SA to an EveryChat form. But just for the sake of this example, we already had a form created inside of Service Autopilot. So just like every other process that we've done so far, we'll just drag in an email. We will click on that email and we will do send form. We're going to say company email. We're going to do the to, again, is EveryChat. And then from there, we're going to do the subject is send form, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to set it to general. This can run 24/7 because we are not texting anybody here. And then we're going to say approve email to off. And then we're going to go over here to email body. And then we're just going to paste this in. So as far as the automation side, we are done here. There's nothing more that we have to do in the automation. So we would just activate it and save it. However, there is some additional stuff that I should talk about, and it's specifically related to custom fields, because some of the EveryChat forms need to correctly map, or any of the Service Autopilot or any of the EveryChat forms need to map correctly to the fields within a Service Autopilot form. And for the most part, we can get all of that information by default. You don't have to create custom fields for client L name, client F name, client email, client phone number. All of that stuff is accepted already inside of Service Autopilot, and we can easily map that to the EveryChat code snippet here. The things that we do need to create custom fields for are going to be things like additional information. So as somebody fills out your services field, if you have a field for them to provide additional information about the service that they're looking for, that's going to be the additional information field that we need to create. Or like the services list, we can map that to a checkbox or a drop down, so that as they check fields on your services form, we can pull that into EveryChat and we know what services that they're selecting. Same thing with like the referring page URL, understanding where they submitted a form, the referring information or referral information, how did they find you, and then the lead acquisition channel, that's going to be important as well. again, that's another situation of like, how did they find you? So that's going to be more like, somebody picking door hanger or Google ads, or, selecting a referral. The referral information is going to be if they select referral from this section. This is going to be the referral's name or their contact information. That's going to be what that's all about. So real fast, let me show you the exact list of custom fields that we need. Now, some of these may not be necessary for the forms that you're going to be using. This is just every possible custom field that you may need within the system. If you're going to use our hiring, if you're going to integrate hiring forms in EveryChat, if you're going to integrate contact forms, or if you're going to do quote forms as well. So these fields right here, this is everything that you need within the system. So this is going to span across all three forms that we have in EveryChat, all three form templates. And this is going to let you integrate hiring forms, quote forms, contact forms, as I mentioned. So if you create these fields here, you will be set and you will not need to create anything more. All you'll need to do, which I'm going to pause the video here in just a second, is go update your forms to map this type of information to those form fields. So let me pause and go find a form real fast. So here's an example of a form. So we have the first name, email, all of this stuff is mapped to the general email field and say the first client name. That's all fine. We don't need to create custom fields for that. For something like comments, however, we do need a custom field. So in this case, what we would ultimately map it to is we would map it to that EC additional informations field. So that would be like, somebody filling out a contact form and writing in their comments about like, why are they reaching out to you? Or in the case that I gave earlier, somebody's filling out the form, you're asking for additional information about the services that they're interested in, you would map that to the additional information field. You will also see some additional information, which we've already talked about, referral information and lead acquisition and services list. We've already talked about that. But in the case where you are integrating a hiring form into EveryChat, we also allow you to specify, do they have a driver's license, and pass that information through EC driver's license, our custom field for that. What job position they're applying for, what kind of experience that they have. So, in this case, if this was a hiring form and this was like, in this field was, what experience do you have? I would map this field to that experience information section right there. So you would just like build out these forms as you would in ServiceAutopilot, and then with the custom field list that I gave you, you'll just go ahead and create these custom fields so they're there whenever you need them. And then from that point forward, any new forms that you create, you can just map these fields wherever they need to go. So whether it's a quote form, a contact form, a hiring form, you have those fields in the system, and you can correctly map them to the fields within your form. From that point forward, like a driver's license could just be a simple yes, no. So like if you set add field, you could do, you could do a yes, no, or you could do a drop down with simply yes, no. And then you would just map it to the, do they have a driver's license custom field? That's the gist. So with that all being said, we have now talked about the three core ways of integrating with ServiceAutopilot. If you do have questions, please let me know. But this is everything that you need to know about how the integration works. For things like the text automation or the text integration, like I mentioned, that can go anywhere. It doesn't have to be on its own in a standalone automation. You can add it to any of your existing automations and sequences to add EveryChat texting anywhere.